I'm sick of the narrative that conservatives in the Midwest are brainwashed victims. And we just need to work harder to bring them to our side. I've lived here for 40 years. We aren't living in caves. We aren't developmentally disabled. We have access to the same information everyone else does. It's not like no one's tried getting through to them in the past few decades. We've all tried. I've lost half my family because when I confronted them they went unambiguously mask off. Full-bore sheathiel. I'm not saying all of them are unreachable. But at this point, the majority of them know who they are and what they're about. And they're proud of it. Let's move on and get to the work of making their lives better against their will. Because they aren't going to change during this lifetime. My family and friends are all older. As am I. And their take on job reform is, we had to suffer through work, so why shouldn't they? I have also lived my entire life in the Midwest. Minus the few years I was in the Marine Corps. I have been disowned by most of my family for even talking about basic things like equality and fair work. My mom always told me, you'll find stupid people wherever you go, and I just took that to mean that everywhere is the same. But after having literally traveled the world and returned, I can confirm there is a special deep-rooted, genetic and immovable kind of stupid here that refuses to change. My late stepfather served in the Army. Had a long list of crazy accomplishments. From setting up new regulations to print away a lot of criminals and routing or corruption in the government. Grew up on a farm with his family being cult-like loyal to Republicans. That was like their brand no matter what. At some point in the service he did a total 180 and voted Democrat no matter what. I grew up Christian and conservative, so this was something I never really understood. He said his time in the service and what he saw was what made him change. Never really expanded on it. His family, none of which served or had any real accomplishments beyond keeping their family-owned farm going, disowned him and called him a traitor. When he passed, they organized to come ransack our place like thieves and were stopped because we found out and told them trespassing will get them shot. Talking to them and seeing how they act was one reason I grew skeptical of republicanism. With my own time in the service pushing me away from that mentality. I've spent so much time trying to talk to them. It's almost pointless. When they have nothing left, they resort to one fallacy after another and get angry at you. Anything that goes against their beliefs seems as a personal attack. I grew up in Texas and now live in the Midwest. Dyed-in-the-wool conservatives do not flip-flop. They have faith and conviction. Any talk that goes against their firmly held beliefs makes you a tempter. You become worthy of suspicion and maybe violence. I've had threats lobbed at me after heated discussions about work and capitalism. They devolve into personal insults, after which violence becomes more likely. Ever been punched in the face for speaking or against capitalism? I have. You challenging their beliefs is to them a form of violence which is to be met with the same. When I moved from LA to DC and then from DC to PNW, we drove both ways across the country, taking the southern route and then the northern. Fox News was on TV in almost every single bar, restaurant, gas station, etc. that we stopped in. Also, I saw very few minorities and a lot of people stared at us at the places we were at. Not sure if it was because of my race or for just looking like an outsider generally. But it was pretty uncomfortable. But I could see how being exposed to Fox News literally everywhere and not being exposed to other types of people could definitely help foster an us versus them mentality. Literally living in Midwest hell, Kansas, but came from Los Angeles. Honestly, the stupid here is physically painful. I work in a factory full of die-hard conservative men, and every damn day I have to hear about how they're coming for their guns and the liberals are the devil. You for real are not going to change them. They can't even accept another opinion. People here actually believe that they don't have to wear a mask, get vaccinated, because Jesus will protect, heal me, and it's somehow violating their rights. Despite them being the first ones to complain when you show up to Texas Roadhouse without shoes. They don't get it. They never will. And that's that. So don't count on them ever joining us, because it is some kind of brainwashing. And the worst kind of it, the religious kind. As an anti-work woman in Michigan, most of the people here just fall in lockstep with the military-industrial complex and settle for less. Shame on them. Conservatism is the result of a lack of empathy. Fundamentalism, the lack of critical thought. Together they form a narrow mindset that leads inevitably to extremism. This is what over half of the criminal justice system roots itself in. The all-American Taliban. Yup, they know and just don't care. The cruelty is the point. My parents and a lot of the people I work with who are over 50 years old were Trump voters. They're not typical Trump voting shitheads. They wear masks. They got vaccinated without a fuss. They don't own guns or fly those various ridiculously colored, politicized American flags. They started the Trump era as single-issue voters. The issue was, I don't trust Hillary, and the social media fake news machine won their votes easily. They don't really follow politics much because they're comfortable and distracted with other pastimes. They're almost always voting for a single issue plus, I want low taxes. Trump lost some of those voters in 2020, but they're right there for him to win back because they're so easily swayed by trash news and social media. The people who do move away from conservatism do so because they find information that challenges their preconceived ideas. They make the decision to move away from it of their own accord. Let's not vainly try to convert anybody because it won't work, and engaging in respectful debate with the right only normalizes their reactionary ideas. Yeah, it's honestly really patronizing of liberals to think that the conservatives just haven't heard the right argument yet, or that they're just missing some critical piece of information which will change their worldview. No, they believe these things because they operate under different axioms than leftists or liberals do. They don't actually think that everyone is created equal. They believe that smart, clever folks will rise to the top, and damagingly that everyone at the top is just smarter and more clever than they are. It's why they worship folks like Elon Musk and Bezos. Heard. I'm in the part of Florida represented by Matt Gaetz. Same place that also voted for George Wallace. No excuses for these degenerates. I missed a day off of work because I was getting my booster shot. When I got back, one of our clients asked why he missed me yesterday. I told him I was getting the booster shot and he looked disappointed. He told me a young man like me didn't need any vaccines. Keep in mind, he puts up the persona of a decent human being. Most have been brainwashed in churches since birth. Stay on the narrow path. When you open your mind, the devil comes in. The Bible is the perfect word of God and you need no other books. All things I've heard repeatedly in churches. When there's a lifetime of doctrine preached with questioning not welcome and with the backing of God, you're not getting far. Only critical thinkers by nature will grow out of it. Luckily I was one. Willful ignorance. They don't care to grow or learn. They are happy being mean and hateful. Anybody who wants to tell us that conservatives are anti-work are either ignorant, which is forgivable, or deceitful, which is not. Loyalty is literally their best quality. Instead of asking them to switch sides, appeal to their values. Who are they loyal to? Trump? Or their family? How can progressive labor reform and unionization help their fam? Can't be responsible for their own shitty behavior. Gotta point the finger somewhere. But really it just boils down to making us think there's enough of them in the world to justify nothing getting done in DC. Well, they are brainwashed and is their fault for letting it happen. They choose to stay in the cult and nobody can get them to leave but themselves. They choose not to listen to anyone but Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump over literally anyone else.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.